I am Nora Bennett, and I remember the moment my world shifted like it was carved into stone. I was in the kitchen lining up spice jars when my phone buzzed in my apron pocket. I almost ignored it, thinking it was just another reminder or a message about groceries, but curiosity won. I swiped the screen, and in seconds, a voice I trusted revealed a truth that nearly broke me. It was Megan, my daughter-in-law. Her tone wasn't sweet or polite. It was sharp, dripping with contempt. And the words she used about my son, Adam, cut me deeper than I thought possible. She called him boring, useless, not worth her time. She mocked the man who worked every day to keep their home together. She even hinted at sabotaging him at work so she would have an excuse to walk away. That night, my heart froze. By the next morning, I knew one thing for certain. I needed a plan Megan would never see coming. Before I tell you how everything unfolded, you need to understand the life we had built. The ordinary rhythm that made the betrayal sting so much more. My name is Nora Bennett, 62 years old, a woman who found comfort in the familiar routines of her small kitchen. Every evening, I set jars back on the wooden shelf, brewed coffee, and waited for my son Adam to come home from work. He was 35, steady and dependable, always carrying a bag of pastries from the little bakery down the block, the same place I used to buy his birthday cakes when he was a boy. Life had not been simple for us. Adam lost his father when he was 12, and I was left to raise him alone. I stitched clothes for neighbors, sold tamales in the morning market, and ran a tiny store at night. Every dollar I earned went into his education. The day he walked across the stage with his university degree in hand, I cried like a child. That was the day I felt all the long nights and aching hands had been worth it. So when Adam introduced me to Megan, I thought my prayers had been answered. She was warm, polite, even called me Mom. I believed she would treasure him the way I did. The day it happened began like any other. I was tidying up the kitchen when my phone buzzed with a new notification. It was from Megan, my daughter-in-law. That alone was unusual. She lived under the same roof with us, and if she needed anything, she usually just said it aloud. I thought perhaps she wanted me to pick up vegetables or milk. Without thinking, I tapped on the screen. It was a voice message, and before I realized what I was doing, I accidentally saved it to my phone. When I opened the app again, the message was gone. Almost instantly, Megan typed, "Sent that by mistake. Did you hear it, Mom?" I hesitated, my heart pounding. Something inside told me not to confess, so I replied, "No, dear." She answered only with a thumbs-up emoji. I sat down at the table, still holding a salt shaker in my hand. My fingers shook as I opened the audio file. Megan's voice filled the room, but it was not the sweet tone she used with me. It was sharp mocking filled with annoyance. She called the other person bro, and I realized she was talking to her brother, Tyler. Then came the words that pierced me like a knife. "Adam is so boring, so useless. He never makes enough money for me to live the way I deserve. I can't stand being with a man this mediocre anymore." My chest tightened as I kept listening, each phrase colder than the last. I sat frozen in that wooden chair, clutching the phone as if it were a snake ready to strike. My first instinct was to believe I had misheard. That stress had twisted her words. But when I replayed the message, the same cruel sentences rang out again. Megan's voice was unmistakable. There was no error or no misunderstanding. She was openly despising my son, the man who adored her. For a moment, I considered storming into her room, confronting her, demanding an explanation. My blood burned with anger, but another thought stopped me cold. If I acted out of rage, I might destroy Adam in the process. He loved her too deeply, trusted her too completely. An outburst would make me look bitter, jealous, or even unhinged. I couldn't risk it. I pressed the phone against my chest and whispered a silent promise to myself. No public scene, no shouting. Document, don't detonate. I needed to stay calm, gather proof, and protect Adam without tipping Megan off. Just then, I heard the iron gate creak. "Mom, I'm home," Adam called cheerfully, holding a bag of pastries, his smile as wide as a summer morning. My heart shattered, How could he smile with so much love while the woman he trusted was sharpening knives behind his back? The next morning began like any other, but I carried a storm inside me. I set the table for breakfast toast, eggs, and fresh fruit while Adam read the newspaper. His face lit up as he spoke. "Mom, I have an important meeting today. If the report is approved, I might finally be considered for that promotion." His eyes sparkled with hope. My heart swelled with pride. But when I glanced at Megan, I caught something else. A flicker of irritation crossed her face before she quickly plastered on a syrupy smile. "That's wonderful, honey," she said, though her voice carried no warmth. Later that morning, as I scrubbed the stove, I heard Megan whispering on the phone. "You leave it to me. Adam definitely won't turn in the report on time. I've already handled it." My breath caught. Every nerve in my body screamed that she was setting another trap. By noon, Adam was frantic. Papers were missing from his briefcase, the very documents he needed for his meeting. He turned the house upside down, his voice breaking with panic. "Mom, I can't find them anywhere." Megan stood in the corner, arms crossed, feigning surprise. "Maybe you left them at the office," she suggested innocently. That was when I saw it. A stack of papers sticking out from between the sofa cushions, hidden carelessly. My heart pounded, but I kept my face calm. "Adam, could these be them?" I asked, handing the documents to him. Relief washed over his face as he hugged me. Megan's smile faltered, her eyes flashing with annoyance before she turned away, pretending to scroll her phone. That evening, I couldn't hold the weight of the secret any longer. My chest ached from silence, so I walked next door to see my neighbor and dearest friend, Joyce Miller. She had known Adam since he was a boy and had stood by me through every storm. We sat on her porch, the summer air heavy with the scent of lilacs. My voice trembled as I told her everything. The voice message, the words I had overheard, the papers hidden in the sofa. Joyce's eyes widened and she gripped my hand firmly. "Nora, you can't let her keep doing this. But don't act rashly. Gather proof. Protect Adam first. The truth will come out, and when it does, you'll need to be ready." Her calm strength steadied me. I knew she was right. The next morning, I made another hard decision. I called Henry and Diane Price, Megan's parents. They were good, respectable people, and I hoped they would listen. We met in a quiet coffee shop, the kind with small wooden tables and the smell of roasted beans filling the air. After a few pleasantries, I placed my phone on the table and pressed play. Megan's voice spilled out, sharp and unrecognizable from the polite tone her parents knew. "Adam is boring, useless. If he loses his reputation at work, I'll finally have an excuse for divorce." The words cut through the silence. Diane's face drained of color, her hand flying to her mouth. "My God, no," she whispered. Henry clenched his fists, his jaw tight. From Tyler, I could expect this. But Megan, his voice cracked with both anger and shame. They looked at me with sorrow in their eyes, and in that moment, we agreed no more excuses, no more cover-ups. Adam had to know the truth. Even with Megan's parents on my side, I knew it wasn't enough. Words between families could be denied, twisted, or brushed aside. I needed something undeniable, something that would carry weight outside our walls. That's when I thought of her workplace. Megan was employed at a communications agency, and her direct supervisor, Dana Whitaker, had a reputation for being fair but firm. That night, I sat at Adam's old computer, the glow of the screen lighting my tired face. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I drafted an email. I kept my words simple and respectful. No anger, no insults, just the truth. "Dear Ems Whitaker, my name is Nora Bennett. I am the mother of Adam Bennett, husband of your employee, Megan Price. I am writing to share a recording I received by accident. I apologize for the intrusion, but it is a matter of ethics." Then I attached the audio file. When I pressed send, my heart pounded as if I had set something irreversible in motion. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. "Mrs. Bennett, this is Dana Whitaker. I've listened to the recording. Could you tell me more? Her voice was steady, but carried a weight of disappointment. I explained briefly how Megan had mocked Adam, plotted with Tyler, and even hidden his work papers. Dana listened without interruption, then sighed. Thank you, Mrs. Bennett. This confirms suspicions I already had. I'll handle it from here. The following afternoon, a text arrived. Megan Price has been terminated for violations of professional ethics. My knees went weak with relief, though I knew this was only the first step. Although Megan had lost her job, I knew the battle was far from over. Adam still lived under the illusion that his wife was loyal, and until he saw the truth with his own eyes, he would keep giving her his heart. That was what I feared most. So, I decided there had to be a moment, a carefully chosen time and place when the truth would be revealed. Adam's birthday was just around the corner, and the family gathering I had already planned felt like the right setting. Everyone would be present. Megan, Tyler, Adam's friends, and even her parents. There would be no running from what had to be faced. In the days leading up to it, Megan behaved as if nothing had happened. She laughed louder than usual, fluttered around the house, and even tried on a bright red dress in front of the mirror. "What do you think, Adam? Do I look stunning?" she asked with a sparkle in her eyes. Adam smiled, ever faithful, and told her she looked beautiful. I stood quietly in the kitchen doorway, forcing myself to keep a neutral face. The night before the party, I checked everything twice. My phone was fully charged, the recording safe in its memory. I even printed out my notes, dates, and details, tucking them into a sealed envelope. As I set it all aside, I whispered to myself, "No shouting, no fighting, just the truth. Tomorrow, the masks come off." The afternoon of Adam's birthday arrived warm and bright, though inside my chest a storm raged. The kitchen filled with the smell of moles simmering on the stove, Adam's favorite since he was a child. I plated Thames, carefully arranging them on a large dish, forcing myself to keep my hands steady. Guests began to arrive, filling the house with chatter and the rustle of coats. Megan floated down the stairs in her red dress, hair curled, smile wide. She looked every bit the devoted wife, but I knew better. Her parents, Henry and Diane, slipped in quietly, their faces strained with worry. Joyce arrived carrying a bottle of wine, catching my eye with a nod that said, "I'm here." Dinner began, plates clinking, conversations weaving around the table. Adam was radiant, telling stories from work, his laughter carrying through the room. Each word pierced me because I knew he didn't yet see the danger seated at his side. Megan laughed too loudly, placing her hand on his arm, as though nothing in the world could divide them. Halfway through the meal, I rose from my chair. My knees trembled, but my voice stayed calm. "Before we continue, there's something important I need everyone to hear." The table fell silent. I pulled my phone from my pocket, tap play, and set it on the table. The room filled with Megan's voice, sharp and dismissive. "Adam is boring, useless. If he fails at work, I'll finally have an excuse for divorce." Tyler's voice followed, smooth and scheming. "Don't worry, I'll introduce you to someone better. And when Adam stumbles, I'll slide into his position myself." The air grew heavy. Adam's fork slipped from his hand and clattered onto the plate. His face turned pale as he stared at Megan. She shot up from her chair, shouting, "This is a setup! You edited my voice?" But Henry slammed his fist on the table. "Enough, Megan. That's your voice, and you know it. We won't cover for you." Diane buried her face in her hands, sobbing. Tyler's grin faded, his eyes dropping to the table. Adam's lips trembled. His voice came out low, broken. Was it all a lie? He turned to me, his eyes desperate, searching for answers. I reached for his hand, cold and shaking. "Son, you loved honestly. That is never foolish." Megan straightened, defiance flashing in her eyes. "Fine, I want a divorce. I don't need a man like you." Tyler muttered, "We're done here," and pulled her toward the door. The sound of her heels striking the floor echoed like gunshots until the door slammed shut. Silence blanketed the room. The truth had finally been spoken, but the damage lay bare across my son's face. The house remained still after the door slammed shut. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, all of it had vanished into an aching silence. Adam sat motionless, staring at the empty plate in front of him. His shoulders slumped as though a weight too heavy had finally crushed him. I wanted to gather him into my arms to shield him like I did when he was a boy, but I knew I couldn't take away this pain with a simple embrace. Joyce quietly rose from her seat, poured a glass of water, and placed it gently in front of Adam. "Drink, son," she whispered with the tenderness of a second mother. His hand shook so violently that the water spilled onto the table. He didn't drink, only stared at the glass as though searching for answers in its ripples. Henry stood and placed a firm hand on Adam's shoulder. His voice was grave but sincere. "This is not your fault, Adam. My children brought shame into this house. You gave your heart. They chose betrayal." Diane, still weeping, murmured apologies through her tears. Her voice cracked with shame. I sat beside my son, wrapped an arm around him, and whispered, "You are not foolish for loving. Real love is never a mistake." He said nothing, only leaned into me like a man holding on to the last steady thing in his world. In the days that followed, the house felt hollow. Adam moved quietly through his routines, and I kept close. The words between us were scarce. Then one morning at the market, I overheard whispers. Two vendors leaned close as they sorted vegetables. "That price girl is moving from place to place. She left most of her things behind, living out of 2 suitcases. Another woman chimed in, shaking her head. "The rich man her brother promised. Already in the papers for fraud. Married with kids, too. Nothing turned out the way she bragged it would." I stood by the tomato stand, my basket heavy in my hand, listening as their words sank in. Megan had chased a dream of wealth and status, but all she caught was emptiness. Tyler, too, had disappeared from view, keeping quiet after his schemes fell apart. I felt no triumph, only a weary sort of justice. Their choices had carved their own downfall, and while it didn't erase Adam's pain, it reminded me of something simple yet profound. Lies unravel themselves. Eventually, time passed slowly, like rain seeping into dry earth. The house no longer rang with Megan's false laughter or Tyler's swaggering voice. Instead, silence settled in heavy but cleaner, somehow like a wound finally free of poison. Adam was not the same as before. How could he be? At first, he moved through his days like a shadow. He went to work, came home, ate in silence, and sat staring at nothing. I worried, but I didn't push. Some hurts can't be rushed. Gradually, small changes appeared. Adam stayed later at the office, pouring himself into reports and projects. I overheard colleagues calling him, praising his integrity, his reliability. Each time his eyes lit up just a little. He began to whistle again, not the carefree tune of before, but something softer, more thoughtful. The quiet in our home no longer felt empty. It was the sound of rebuilding, the beginning of a man piecing his life back together, one steady step at a time. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the porch in shades of gold, I heard the gate creak open. Adam stepped in, but this time he wasn't alone. Beside him walked a young woman in a simple blue dress, her hair tied back neatly, a woven basket of fruit in her arms. She smiled warmly, her eyes bright and sincere. "Good evening, Mrs. Bennett. My name is Claire Brooks. I'm an elementary school teacher. Adam has told me so much about you." Her voice carried no performance, no forced sweetness, just genuine kindness. I welcomed her inside and we shared dinner together. She asked about the recipe for Adam's favorite mole, listened attentively to his stories, and even rolled up her sleeves to help me clear the table. When I ran out of water, she refilled my glass without being asked. When Adam mentioned a work report, she leaned over gently, offering thoughtful suggestions. I watched from across the table, heart swelling with quiet relief. This wasn't a woman chasing status or money. This was someone who saw my son, truly saw him, and valued the man he was. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to believe that healing was not only possible, but already beginning. Looking back, I often ask myself how I miss the signs. The truth is, red flags rarely wave like banners. They whisper instead, small comments, sudden silences, little shifts in how someone treats the person they claim to love. With Megan, the warning lights were there. Contempt in private paired with charm in public, a hunger for status over stability, and subtle efforts to isolate Adam from his own success. I wanted to believe the best, so I ignored what my instincts already knew. If there's one lesson I want to share, it's this. Do not dismiss the whispers, document them, keep a timeline, save messages, notice patterns. Protecting someone you love doesn't always mean rushing into battle. Sometimes it means gathering truth carefully, step by step, until it cannot be denied. And remember, no matter how painful, boundaries are an act of love. When you name the wrongs clearly and calmly, you are not destroying family. You are protecting the heart of it. Lies may spread quickly, but truth has a way of standing steady and unshaken when everything else falls. Love is patient, but it should never be blind. Protecting those we care for sometimes means making choices that tremble in our hands. I learned that truth spoken calmly and clearly is stronger than any secret whispered in the dark. If you have ever stood in my place shielding someone you love from betrayal, know this. Courage opens the path to healing. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it resonated, please like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Your words might be the light another soul needs tonight.